The images of George Floyd being killed by former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin are forever etched in our minds. But 1 year later, has anything truly changed? That question taking us to New Jersey's largest city to get answers.
What do you want?
I can't breathe.
The world watched.
Mama!
Get up and get in the car right.
As former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin pinned George Floyd to the ground, his knee on his neck for 9 minutes and 29 seconds, all of it on camera.
Does he have a pulse?
No, bro, look at him. He's not responsive right now, bro.
Check for a pulse. I can't breathe.
A cry for Black lives to matter and a call for justice.
Say his name, George Floyd!
1 year later, has justice arrived?
People are just angrier now.
Something else just happened where a young black man was just killed because the cop didn't know the difference between a taser and her gun. So how can we say it's getting better if someone else just got killed?
You don't change a problem like this in like a year.
If you ask officials in New Jersey's largest city, they'd agree. Back in 2016, there was a deal with the Department of Justice to reform the police department.
What that gave us was the ability to really enforce a lot of these changes.
But Newark's public safety director, Brian O'Hara, says it was George Floyd's murder that accelerated the administration's plans. In June 2020, Mayor Ross Baraka signed an ordinance to tackle racism and police brutality, creating the Office of Violence Prevention and Trauma Recovery.
Hello, sir. How are you?
This is the program's director.
The mission and vision for the Office of Violence Prevention and Trauma Recovery is to ultimately be a clearinghouse for the community.
Social workers and volunteers from the community go out into the streets offering help.
We're just doing a community walk to see if there's any resources that you may need.
I think because a lot of the people that are working within the office are from the community and are about the community, I feel like the community is really starting to respond well because they trust us.
I'm going to connect you with one of the social workers to come and take your information. We are ultimately building a national model here in the city of Newark, where we have a Brick City Peace Collective, which consists of about 16 different organizations.
They're also building an anti-racism hate crime unit and asking city workers to report civil rights violations by their peers. 2 community service officers are also assigned to each precinct. Officials say this program is a marriage between public health and public safety, which ultimately means changing policing.
Traditionally, what you would see in Newark when I was a police officer here, you would see, a young person would be shot on the street, the cops would get there, and they would stand there and just wait for an ambulance. And the optics of that to people in the community was, it already confirmed what people felt. And they felt that the cops here did not care about that person's life. And what I've seen here, even just recently, is amazing. I've seen officers, grab those folks up, support them, and just those sorts of simple things are just an incredible difference.
5%, or $12 million, was pulled from the public safety budget and poured into this program.
The public safety budget is probably the biggest budget in every city. We can reallocate and shift some of that so that we can do some great work too.
To me, it's crumbs.
Social justice leader and co-founder of the Newark Water Coalition, Anthony Diaz, is critical of the Office of Violence Prevention. He says it's not enough.
Our community centers need to be funded dramatically. We need to open up more.
It's not 100%, but we're moving in the right direction to change the culture of how we do policing.
Inherently, there has been trust lost at so many levels on so many different issues in the course of Newark's history that our residents aren't all in.
That troubled history dating back to the race rebellion of 1967. A black cab driver was pulled over and brutally beaten by white police officers. Riots followed for several days. More than 20 people died, hundreds were arrested, and thousands injured. All of this unfolding at the 1st Precinct, the same precinct where the Office of Violence Prevention and Trauma Recovery will be headquartered by the end of this year.
A negative place, if you will, in the community is now going to be a place of change and hope.
This initiative turning the page to a new day in Newark, working to provide true trust, integrity, and partnership. And the city will also create a museum inside of the 1st Precinct showing the history of NPD over the years. Meantime, Derek Chauvin is convicted of murder. His sentencing is set for June 25th.